Anyway, so good evening, everybody. Welcome to the April 4th meeting of the School Building Committee. We will call this meeting officially to order. Just a reminder that it is being recorded. So we did not have anybody sign up for public comment on my end. Erin, did you have anybody sign up with you?
Nope.
All right. And just a quick reminder, folks, if you didn't have the chance to take that quick survey that Erin sent out, to please do so now. If you weren't able to do it sooner. And then you've all received all of the links with all of the information to prepare for tonight's meeting. So first up on the agenda, we're going to understand the conversation, the status of the delegation's conversation around reimbursement with the MSBA. So as you know, Senator Vilas and Representative Duffy are working on hopefully passing some new legislation that will help to assist communities that are in receivership have greater than 80% reimbursement rates. So I'm not sure if they are on with us yet at this moment, but if they are.
Representative Duffy's on.
Hi, Pat, can you hear us?
Yeah. Senator Vilas is in the waiting room, just needs to get promoted. I don't know if someone can just, oh, I think he just got in. Okay, we should be good.
All right, well, thank you.
Hello, everybody.
Good evening. Thank you both very much for taking the time to meet with us this evening. As you know, in Holyoke, not only are we under receivership, but we're a gateway city. So any opportunities to try to get any additional money to help offset the cost of a new building is greatly obliged. So if you guys could just, we did read, I know I read through where the status of the bill is and the different stages, but if you guys could just update us if there's any promise or hope on the horizon.
I'm gonna just, most of the action right now is in the Senate. So, and I'm also losing my voice, which I warned the senator of earlier today. I mean, I think he can probably give a little more detail if I'm right about that. But
sure.
It's, you know, it has moved to a commission. That always means that there's, you know, a timeline involved. Yeah, I don't know what's like, if you've got more stuff to add there, Senator.
Well, yeah, well, I would just, well, first and foremost, thank you for, and Rep, I hope you start feeling better and your voice doesn't go. But first and foremost, everybody, thanks for the invitation, can't talk today, to kind of give a little update. And I just think this is so great how you folks do this frequently. The community in general gives us an opportunity to maintain that relationship. So yeah, there's really two bills kind of in question, a bill filed by myself, as well as a bill filed by Senator Comerford. The bills really have kind of the same intent, which is to increase the reimbursement rate for communities that are building new schools, et cetera. The difference between the two bills is that, you know, and as part of the drafting of this, you know, there was I think an across the board increase is going to be a much more harder. It's just going to be a lot more difficult to get. I mean, right? Like all state programs, there's limited funds in the MSBA budget as well as every other state entity. So my approach was a little bit different, and I'm not saying that either approach is better. But my approach was to file a bill for communities like Holyoke that are in receivership, as well as Lynn, as well as the other community, to increase the reimbursement rate from up and beyond that 80%. So that's kind of where the legislation is. And way back when, a month or so ago, really about 2 months ago now, I had a conversation with the chair, Senator Lewis, about this bill. And there's an absolute realization across the board that we need to do something with the MSBA funding. There are a lot of communities that the existing framework, the existing structure, I don't think does enough. And what this bill does is it kind of recognizes that in certain instances. And really the receivership, communities in receivership was kind of my way to, I couldn't really come up with a benchmark other than that as a way that would kind of I don't know, maybe find folks be more receptive. It might cause people to want to be inclined to increase that cap. So I had my office had a dialogue with Senator Lewis's office today, and really where they're going with it right now is kind of just to explore this possibility. All of these bills that they're combining, and like the rep just said, they're kind of forming this commission to really just do a big deep dive and overhaul of all the MSBA funding as it exists right now. That's where it stands right now. That's where it stands as of today, this morning. I guess the only thing that I would say is that, I think I'm going to say something that you folks already know. I mean, to press forward right now based on the existing guidance, the existing laws, and hope that we can continue to push and convince colleagues of ours. I mean, I've been in countless conversations with Representative Duffy and myself where we've kind of made the case that we need to increase this budget, but more importantly for communities like Holyoke right now, it's really important that we do this. That's where it is right now. And happy to, hopefully that addressed it, and happy to answer any questions you might have.
Can I just throw one other thing in there, which is I 100% agree with everything that the senator just said. And I think his approach was the strategic approach. Like, let's really look at communities in receivership, gateway cities. And I think if there's going to be a commission, another interesting thing to look at is, as opposed to like playing around with reimbursement rates, it's raising the cap. You know what I mean? That's that's kind of more simple and straightforward. But that being said, we'll do whatever they agree to. Yeah.
Is there anything that this body or community members as a whole, like, is it at any phase or stage where like we could do anything to support it? Like, should we be like writing letters to anybody, voicing our concerns or opinions? And then my second question would be, if we're accepted and we're in process, but let's say we haven't fully bonded yet, or even if we have, do you think that if we can manage to get something passed, that it can be like, I can't think of the right word, but like
retroactive, you mean? Like,
yeah,
we could be
I'm
grandfathered in?
Retrograded. I'm like, that's not the right word. Yeah, can it be retroactive so that if we've already borrowed our money and already established, can we go back and say, okay, well, now that this new legislation is out, and I guess other question would be, realistically, if they form a commission, like what is time frame on that? And I liked your point, Pat, to say it might not be the percentage, but that cap. If we could get 80% on the full package and not just on that certain dollar per square foot, it would certainly make an impact.
Aaron, I think you've hit the nail on the head. I mean, commissions are great, but I've got some timeline concerns.
Yeah, like, can it just?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it would be very, and that's kind of why I wanted to include in my opening remarks the absolute need to kind of press forward. And by the way, and this is something that both Rep. Duffy and I have done, as well as many people. I just saw Anthony Soto. I know Mayor Garcia. When we talk to MSBA, they mention about how frequently they are having conversations with Aaron and everybody involved in this process. So they have on any number of occasions talked about just a huge change in terms of, this is my word, not theirs, but like the engagement that they're seeing and they're getting. So I think it's really, really important to kind of stay the course with the existing protocols and the existing frameworks. I a long time ago stopped trying to predict timelines in my line of work. It's just really, really difficult, and just things pop up. What I can tell you, and I feel confidently speaking for the rep and I, because we talked as recently as today on this, we're both pushing really, really hard for everything and anything we can do at the state level to contribute to this. But timelines, that would just be I don't know, Rep. You want to take a shot at a timeline? You want to go down that path?
I mean, yeah, I mean, into next session, right? Definitely. But yes, we need to stay vigilant to make sure that should this move forward in a positive way, that Holyoke gets grandfathered in. I mean, that's the whole point of this, taking care of a district like Holyoke. And also, I would say, a commission, it holds meetings, it has an office. I think that we could organize some sort of, I don't know, Holyoke panel, letter writing. Senator, what do you think about that?
No, I think that's great. And the other thing that I'd point out too is that when we were kind of going back to when we were drafting this legislation, one of the things that I wanted to do was I wanted to file. I'm not a big fan of filing bills that sound good to the press, to the media, to your constituents back home, but are just completely dead on arrival. And again, it's not a criticism of anybody. I like to try to craft legislation that is not beyond the pale and actually has a chance and people will engage on the conversation. And I thought that's why I did go down the path of really limiting it. Because again, look, at the end of the day, I think there'd probably be universal agreement that if we could just increase, raise the cap, increase the reimbursement, I'm talking about building schools for kids. I mean, who would be against that? The problem is obviously is that there's only a certain amount of resources that this state entity, the MSBA, has for these programs. So I thought, my strategic and tactical approach was, well, let's focus on some of the receivership communities right now to try to focus on those 3 districts for right now. And I'm using that kind of as the vehicle to start a much larger conversation, I think, which is that we need to, in a very deliberate and measured way, if communities are going to have a very difficult time period financing these projects, we can't leave it there. I mean, we have an obligation, a moral obligation, pushing aside the legal obligation to provide our students with adequate schools. So it's like I guess the best way to look at the bill that I filed would be like an incremental first step that's not going to be immediately laughed at right outside the gate, using that as a conversation. And that's what's happening right now. That's what's happening with a commission being formed, doing this stuff. And I guess the benefit we have, which kind of bleeds into your next question, Aaron, is that if in fact something were to happen, tail end of this legislative session, or even the beginning of next legislative session, is that something that could be applied, the Holyoke I almost used your word, retroactively. I was going to say retrograded. And the answer is, I don't know. But if a bill was filed with the intent to help the communities that are in receivership, and then it were to turn out that we passed this bill and those funds could not be used for one of those communities in receivership, it would defy logic and it would be completely counterintuitive, is what I would say. So we would fight like absolute heck to make sure that it is. And then I guess I'd also say too, like in the creation of these commissions, and I'm not a big fan of these commissions, but I think in areas like this, where you're talking about expanding funding potentially for a program, I think these commissions do have a place because it allows stakeholders and municipalities and building committees to kind of weigh in and say, look, the need right now is such that we just need more money to do this project. So I think letter writing, advocacy, whether it's through us, then to the powers that be, or directly to them and that grassroots stuff, I think those are both really incredible ways to convey the point.
Thank you. One of the main reasons I asked if we thought it would be retroactive is because, I think we all know the temperature of some politicians here in the city. And I just wouldn't want people to say like, well, let's wait, let's pause because this legislation may or may not happen in the next however long. So we should wait to see if we can get more money. I think it's important for people to understand if we don't do this now, the MSBA will not be inviting us back in to do anything anytime soon. So waiting, it really isn't an option, in regards to the MSBA, but I could see why some would say like, well, let's possibly wait if that means more money. So, fighting to make it retroactive, if something is able to get passed, I mean, chances are if something's going to get passed, it's going to get passed before we have the building complete. And if I'm not mistaken, that's when we bond. So it seems like there's plenty of time to be able to adjust numbers, even if we have moved forward in the process. By the time, this is, people have to understand, this is just potential, right? Like, it's great and we want to support it, but it's not even close to being a bill yet. So we can't, saddle up and wait on it. Like, we have to progress.
I agree with you, Erin.
I can't stress enough how much I agree with you. I would take it a step further and say it would be a catastrophic miscalculation to kind of sit back and say, let's see what the state does in this instance. And I mean, as the rep said herself, at right now, at this point in time, and rep, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't want to misstate something. As of right now, both of these are just, I'm not aware of any. Point I'm making is that these are two Senate bills right now, right?
Yep,
so
that's right.
Again,
they wrapped in a bunch of House bills, including one of mine, but yours is the major driver. And they're in the Senate.
But regardless,
they have to come to the House eventually.
Holyoke, would if and when changes do happen because of this initiative, we're going to benefit in the future with future projects. Sure.
Absolutely.
Does anybody have any questions or comments or anything they'd like to add to the conversation? Questions for the rep or the senator?
Deborah does, and then Dave.
I'm sorry, Erin, who did you say first? Oh, I see
Deborah, and then Dave.
All right, Mrs. Vega.
Evening, and thank you, Rep Duffy and Senator Vilas, for joining us this evening. And thank you for your work on this initiative. So it's sounding like the timeline is ambiguous. And I just wonder if there's something that we can do on our end in our process as we get closer to bonding. And we could do something legally in writing saying that if the bill should pass, that it would come back to us retroactively. I'm not a lawyer, but I don't know. Is this a thing that we could do?
That might be a question for the MSBA. What do you think, John?
Yeah, well, first I want to say that it's like taking me 30 seconds to process this right there, because I'm so used to that screensaver that I just saw behind Deb with my friend Erin Vega right there. So I'm processing this right now. I agree. That's a
screensaver. This is our.
I mean, the background. I'm sorry.
She's like, this is the house.
That's what I meant. I'm sorry. I'm not rep. I think you're 100% right. I think I certainly wouldn't have an issue with that, but I certainly would want to run that by the MSBA to get their thoughts on that.
Yeah, I doubt it.
Yeah, who knows? But thank you for your.
Well, thank you, Deb.
Mr. Yost.
Yes, thank you. I want to thank John and Pat for working on this, and in addition to the letter writing, if you keep us posted on if and when hopefully there will be hearings on this, that we could be aware of those, so we could testify on that. And I'm wondering, I don't know if you could factor in also, but just looking at the Division of Local Services. Once again, Holyoke is in the top 5 as far as property tax being a percentage of being the highest percentage of per capita income. So I don't know if we could factor income levels of community into this as well.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective. I think that's something that. Yeah, that's really interesting and fascinating. I think that's something that I will certainly convey that to Chairman Lewis, just to kind of use that as an additional plug, if you will.
Yeah,
well, that's really good.
Field.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, thank you.
And yet, we can do this on a semi-regular basis, with the, come in, give updates on what's going on. And definitely if there's breaking news.
And we're happy to meet on a different night, knowing that you guys are usually in session on Thursdays. I think we'll be adding more meetings to our schedule if everything goes our way at the MSBA in April. So we should be meeting more frequently. Did anybody else have anything else they'd wanted to add to this conversation? so we can let these fine folks get on with their evening?
Aaron, I just want to say just from my standpoint, it's
Please.
been obviously I've been the only project per se that I've been involved with Holyoke is this one, if you will. Obviously, talking about the school realm, I was the rep, not for Holyoke, the last go round a few years ago, and just talking to the MSBA on a pretty frequent basis, getting updates from them. And I already said this, but I think it just bears repeating. They are incredibly, I don't know if impressed is the right word, but Anthony Soto, Mayor Garcia, and everybody else that they're communicating with, to say that they're impressed. And, I think this is moving along in a very good direction. And it's not lost on anyone that a lot of that has to do with, the great work that folks in Holyoke are doing, supplying them with whatever information they have. So it's really making our job a lot easier, because, the folks at the municipal level are doing a really good job answering all their questions and providing stuff. So thank you to everyone involved with that.
Amen.
I'll second that for Miss Linville. She's doing a lot
Absolutely.
of amazing work in the background for us, you guys. So she's great. All right. Well, thank you, Rep Duffy and Senator Vilas, for your time. We greatly appreciate it. We look forward to having you back in again soon. And then if you could forward us contact information for the commission once it's established, we can certainly send a formal letter of support for your bill as a committee or as a school committee, as a city council, citizens, whatever we decide to start doing once we have some contact information.
Awesome. We definitely will do that.
Great.
Right.
Thank
Thanks,
you so much.
everybody.
Have a great night, everybody.
Good to see you all.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you very much.
All right, you guys, I have 1,500 tabs open, so let me just pull back up my agenda. All right. Oh, Aaron adds notes and then my agenda grows quite significantly.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Yeah, so I think I'm looking at the top and then all of a sudden I'm way down here, but that's more than fine. All right, so next up on the agenda, folks, we have some information to go over regarding the Peck Middle School enrollment certification letter. So we're gonna, Aaron or Anthony, who's gonna go over that exactly?
Anthony, how about I start with just an update on the eligibility deliverables so people know where we're at, and then you could give the recent from your meeting this morning. Would that work for you?
That works perfectly. Thanks, Aaron.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. Can you guys see a screen that says eligibility deliverables?
Yep.
Okay, great. So I showed this to you all probably in October or November, and this is all that we've made over the past 6 months. So way to go. So that was done with back in September. We had the initial compliance certification done. Obviously, we've established the school building committee, and just want to give a shout out. We have 100% attendance right now from members and a lot of also working group members here. So great job being here, especially on a Monday. I was a little bit doubtful, will people remember that we switched up the schedule, but way to go and thank you. We submitted the educational profile in November. We did the online enrollment projections. And then the piece that I didn't think would be as tricky as it was, but turned out to be a little bit tricky, was getting that enrollment certified. But we got that completed. In our pre-reading today included the 8-page memo / manifesto about why we think we should have a 550 student building, even though their initial projections were a little bit lower than that. And they accepted that. My talking points are, they adjusted the projected number of students from 940 up to 960 by adjusting the cohort survival rate. And then they still are allowing us to move forward with planning a 550 student middle school based on our plan for 8 homerooms per grade. And so according to their calculations, we would have in 10 years time, we would have one 550 student building and another 410 student middle school building. internally, like
Excuse me,
in
Erin, for
Holyoke.
one quick second. On the screen share, we're seeing Jackie's note taking instead of what you were sharing.
That's okay. That's just because here my talking points were up here.
Oh,
Sorry.
oh, okay. I just wanted you to know. I wasn't sure if you were aware. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. And so maybe one, you know, perhaps in 10 years, maybe one middle school would be a little bit bigger than the other. I'm not convinced that that will be the case, but what will be good is in either case, the most number of students would be able to be in the new middle school building, which is terrific. And so we signed everything. Superintendent Soto's office and Mayor Garcia's office were super responsive for, like, we had like 14 days to get things in, and they got it in like the day of. So that was great. This part wasn't required. And then the local vote authorization, that was what the city council did already in February. So we're ahead of schedule with that. And then now we've submitted our part of this feasibility study agreement, and then MSBA submits the other part. So we're like almost finished. We're just kind of waiting to hopefully be at the April 27th MSBA meeting. So I'll pass it off to, well, first I'll pause. Did anyone have questions on those eligibility deliverables or what we've done or submitted or anything? Okay, great. I'll pass it off to Anthony.
Great, thank you. So I had the pleasure to meet with the MSBA team this morning. Myself and the mayor met with them, and they were giving us a little bit of direction on what to expect and what they're going to be expecting from Holyoke. I'll preface this with saying that this is in very like rough draft format, as with most things with the MSBA. Everything has to get approved by their board. So tentatively, what they're looking to do is have their board take 2 votes on April 27th. So there's a meeting, the MSBA is meeting on April 27th. And the first vote that they're looking for their board to make is to move us out of eligibility and into the feasibility phase. So at that meeting, you know, they will be sharing, similar to what Erin just went through, that we have complied with every single step of the eligibility period, and we're ready to move into the feasibility phase of this project. We're hoping, obviously, that goes well, and so that we can move to the next phase. And then the second vote they want to take is basically unprecedented. So this is where they're really working with Holyoke. They want to make sure that this project is successful. And one of the things that we expressed to them was that we want to make sure that we're being as fiscally responsible as possible, which includes 2 things, like potentially looking at the model school program. And if that doesn't work out, being able to utilize the existing schematic design that we had from the Peck Middle School that we used, you know, a couple of years ago. So I don't have the exact language of what that vote's going to look like, but there's 2 components to it. One of them being like, hey, we want Holyoke is interested in exploring the possibility of a model school program should it save the city money. And if it doesn't, then they're looking to work to skip a significant portion of what the traditional process is and move to the preferred schematic design phase, which would allow us to use our old design, use our old OPM, and use our old designers. That was like, you know, music to my ears, in that I was worried you know, because we had been talking about moving forward with this model school program, and there's some questions about whether or not there are savings there for Holyoke. But I didn't want to forget the fact that initially we were asking them if we could use the same designer, and if we could use the same schematic design, we would be able to save significant dollars in that portion of the project. Many of you remember uh, a traditional uh, a traditional feasibility study could cost Holyoke up to $1.2 million, $1 million. What we had asked the city to appropriate was $475,000. And that was under the condition that we're able to revive the design that we already had and use the same consultants that we've used. So I'm very happy to report that the MSBA is moving, you know, to make a recommendation and explain to their board, like, this is where we're at with Holyoke and this is what we want to do. So that was very, very reassuring, that either way, you know, if the model school process doesn't work, or doesn't save the city money, that we would still be able to go that other route, which does save the city money, in this phase of the project. They also said that's what's going to happen April 27th. But there are going to be some things that we need from you, Holyoke.
There's the but. And there's the but.
Yeah, it wasn't so much. It was just a clear, like, letting us know what they expect to see on our end. They do want to make sure that we update our educational plan. So we don't need to have an ed plan finalized by the time the board meeting comes in April. But we do need to have an ed plan finalized before we're able to explore that model school option. So what they end up doing is showing the ed plan to all these designers, and which then allows us to see if the model school program would work given our educational plan. So we've already started the process of pulling our existing ed plan from the last project and identifying areas that would need to be updated. There's obviously going to have to be some conversation around what we're doing for a 550 school, but also what we would, if enrollment were to go down, what we would be doing for the other middle school and design. So like we'll have an opportunity to go through that process for sure. Now they are looking for 3 city council votes. And again, this is like unprecedented. They've never done this before. They've never, attempted to like move and accelerate a community as much as they're trying to move us with the whole like the reason behind that being to save the city money. Not, they understand that in order for this project to be successful, we need to think outside the box and do things that may not be necessarily traditional, which includes accelerating us a little bit quicker than normal and allowing us to use some of the old work that we had from a couple of years ago. So the first vote that they're looking, they want alignment. I was very happy when we got a unanimous vote from the city council. Not on this feasibility study, but when we did express a united front, the entire city council expressed to the MSBA that we're ready to move forward with this project. We've looked at what we needed to look at, and we're ready to move forward. So they appreciate that alignment, and they're looking for more alignment. So one of the things that they want to get from the city council is to agree that based on the previous feasibility study, we are going to be looking to build a new middle school, right? They don't want to hear further down the road that we want to explore and add reno option. We did, as part of the old process, we compared those two things, and we're aligned that the building a new school was the way to go, and that there wasn't any significant savings to doing an ad rental. So they're looking for the city council to say that, to agree that we want to use the old feasibility study and conclude that we want to proceed with new construction and not further pursue an ad rental option. They're also looking, the second vote they're looking for is that the city council agrees to utilize the consultants procured from the previous statement of interest. Again, under the whole premise that we're looking to save the city some tax dollars as part of this project. And then lastly, they're looking for the city council to agree to request to the MSBA that we explore the MSBA model school program. So those three things are what they're looking for from the city council. And we have a draft in writing, and we'll know more in April. Like we'll have to regroup with them, and they'll give us more specific details on what they'd like to see. But that's just a draft of what they're expecting to hear and see from Holyoke through a city council vote. Not necessarily, the ed plan is really what we need to submit to them and their team. They're going to be scheduling a meeting for us with their facilities, their FCA subcommittee or whatever, where we're able to present to them the ed plan, the updated ed plan. But those three votes are going to be critical for the MSBA to know that there's not going to be any huge surprises in terms of opposition or changing direction or anything like that. Those three votes would allow us the flexibility to if the model school to move forward with exploring the model school program. B, if it doesn't work out and we look at the model school program and it doesn't save the city significant dollars, or it doesn't fit the ed plan, then it'll allow us to revert back to where we had discussed, which was picking up the old plan, using the same consultants, and being on a little bit of an accelerated process.
Sorry.
So yeah, that's pretty much it.
So this is not typically something that they request of municipalities to get this kind of a vote from city council, correct?
That is correct. This is unprecedented. They were very, explicit in letting us know we've never done this before, and we know that this isn't traditional. But
like you said, I think it's important for people to understand the reasoning behind it. And it's because they invested so much time and energy into us last time to just have us fail.
And money, a lot of money too.
A lot of money and time and energy to fail. Now, Anthony, my one question is, are they looking for this before their April 27th meeting?
No.
Okay.
No.
Do we know
they're looking to present to the board that information. So they're looking to get 2 votes. And on the second vote, since it's such a outlier and it's something that they've never done before, they're saying look, we want you to make an exception for Holyoke. We want this to be successful. And in order to make you feel comfortable by taking this vote to allow us to go down this path, what we're asking Holyoke to do is get a commitment from their city council on these 3 things. Okay. So they're just going to let their board know that that's what they're going to be asking us to provide as a community.
Okay. Mr. Lubold?
Thank you. Quick question. How long does, the model school program take if we were on that track, as opposed to the track of using the OPMs in the last plan? Seems to me the model school program is going to be something that would take longer and cut into the time frame. And I don't know that for fact, but it just seems that looking at the model school program would probably slow us down. I don't know if that makes any sense.
It does make sense. I do think that the model school process would be a little bit longer.
Because we can't use the same consultants on a model school program. We would have to use new consultants as well.
We could end up with the same ones, right? If they end up, looking at the ed plan and looking at the model school and saying, yeah, we want to support that. I would say that I don't know that it will take longer because it is a model school process and they already have somewhat of a design and similar to what we would be doing the other route where we would be taking that design and fitting it to the new plan. I would imagine that like it's a similar process where they'll take the model school design and take our ed plan and try to kind of fit it together. That was one thing that the mayor and I had asked this morning in terms of timing what that, and they just, they weren't able to commit to any type of time frame. They said there's so many variables to consider that they're not really comfortable with providing us with any sort of timeline.
You have to take that ed plan and go before a facilities committee at the MSBA.
Yeah, I forgot the name of the committee, but when they send us like formal documentation on what's expected, they'll be explicit. So they did say like that'll be a separate meeting that they have to set up. It's one of their subcommittees, similar to we met with one of their subcommittees to review the enrollment certification. They have a whole nother team that we would be sitting down and that they would be reviewing the ed plan and kind of letting us know where to go from there.
When you look at that ed plan, you might find a model school that fits, but when do they look at the crazy topography we have at that site, which, Mr. Anderson spent a lot of time going through? Again, I don't know where the heck we fit on that thing with the school built on a hill. I just hate wasting time and energy, in places where we don't need to be. And I know that they've said they can make it fit anywhere, but they haven't really provided any information to, validate that.
Yeah, I would imagine or not imagine, like, I'm not trying to be a wise guy here. Like, it's going to happen during the feasibility phase. They're going to look at that ed plan and as part of the process, a designer is going to have to come out here and look at the site. No designer is going to take on this project without having basic information about the site and maybe even having visited it. I have my feelings, and I don't know that I want to necessarily express my feelings. What I have committed to the city council and the community in general is that if there is opportunity for savings, that we as a school district are willing to explore them, so long as it doesn't compromise, our educational plan.
Yeah, I'm with that 100%. Wherever we can save it, if we can. The ed plan, are we spending money on consultants to produce that? And then if I guess we have to do one anyway. So I guess that doesn't necessarily matter.
We have one, Mark, and we'll, Aaron's already downloaded the one that we had from before. And I think we have a subcommittee of this group, right? That would, Aaron, correct me if I'm wrong. There's a subcommittee of this group that would really help facilitate, updating that plan.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, we could I'll definitely take the lead on rewriting, and it felt, when I read through it, it felt like exciting to update it, and that a lot was directionally correct that we could look at, and a lot that we might need to change we've kind of already talked about. So I felt a lot like we had a lot to work with, and then identified some key areas. And I already emailed Jackie. We're going to talk more once we hear back from the MSBA about how specifically to involve the academics and extracurricular working group for input. Of course, also work with HPS departments that touch teaching and learning and school leadership.
Thanks, everyone. I've got some hands raised, so I'm going to go on to Mrs. Vega.
Hi, I just had a question about the last two votes that we're asking of the city council. So it sounds like the second vote, we are asking them to agree to use the same consultants, whether we go with the model school route or the old schematic. But it seems as if the third vote we're asking for is only to explore the model school and doesn't say anything about or explore the old schematic. So if you could just clarify that. That would be
Yeah,
great.
I think both of those votes cover us, right? So one vote is requesting that the city council request to the MSBA that to invite the district to use the MSBA's model school program. That opens the door for us to explore that model. The second vote, the way it reads is the city council agrees to proceed utilizing the consultants procured during the previous statement of interest in accordance with the letter from the Attorney General's office dated February 10th, 2021, unless it selects a model school designer.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, could we clarify to the city council that third vote, I mean, that we're not being locked into a model school route?
For sure.
It's just
there'll be official language to be presented once we ask them, right, Anthony? You're going to have scripted language for us to present?
Yeah, I think that we should come up with the language and then we should run it by folks at the MSBA. Would this satisfy your requirement? And then they would, they give us the green light. Yes, that's exactly the language we're looking for.
Okay. I would just like it to be clear to the city council that doesn't lock us into that one route.
Yep. That's a good point. And I'm sorry if I wasn't clearer in that, but obviously we need to make that clear to the city council for sure.
Yeah, because I would like the option to go both, either direction.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Puello?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Soto. So I got two questions. I thought in a previous meeting that Mr. Lubold's committee already gave a recommendation that we not go the model school route because it wasn't cost effective. So maybe if we could clarify on that, if that recommendation was already given. And then number two, do we know how much money? I mean, is this going to cost anything? I kind of heard it come up a little bit, but I didn't really hear a question. If we end up exploring the model school route and we've already got a recommendation that says no, are we going to be spending part of the money that was already approved for the feasibility study, exploring something that seems like we're probably not going to end up doing?
So from my understanding, so Mr. Soto, Mayor Garcia, and myself met with a couple of people from the MSBA, and they said that us trying to rule it out wasn't really the process, that their designers would decide. So for my from my understanding, once we have the educational plan, they'll run that by a couple designers, and those designers will look to see if we fit into a model program. I don't believe there's any cost affiliated with that, if I'm not mistaken, right, Mr. Soto?
I don't believe so either, but I don't know with 100% certainty. So that's a really good question that we could follow up with them on. What I do know is that if we do move in that direction, that they'll actually participate in the feasibility study costs,
right?
Which would certainly save money. I mean, he even said like it might not cost anything. But again, until I see something in writing, I don't know, I don't want to speak for the board, the MSBA. So that's a good question, Mr. Councilor Puello, and we'd be happy to follow up and ask that question to the MSBA or to one of their representatives.
And
Yeah,
then,
thanks. And
sorry, Mr. Puello, what was the second part of that question?
The first part was on the subcommittee recommendation, because I mean, I think it's to get other counselors on board to vote for something when the subcommittee is saying that we probably shouldn't do it. I think it's going to be a little tough, you know.
Yeah, what the subcommittee had provided us was evidence that there was no evidence online that suggests we'd be able to save money, and the directive that I feel I got from this group was to express that to the MSBA, to say, hey, we've looked at everything online, we've looked at square footage costs, we've looked at this, and we're not seeing the same thing we're not seeing savings. So where are those savings? And you know, what they had mentioned was exactly what Aaron Brunel said, was that, you know, it wouldn't be us to really decide where there's no way for us to just look at that on paper, that they would get, you know, professional designers to look at it, and then we would make a decision at that point.
Yeah, they basically said that we were a little ahead of ourselves, and they appreciated the background work we did, but that the designers, you know, different designers would take a look at everything and see if they feel as though it would fit. And then if they felt it would fit, they would present to us. And then, of course, we as a committee would have the ultimate say. But they basically said that they would look at it and they would present it to their designers, and then they would help decide if it's something that we should explore or not. But to Mr. Lupold's question, I'd be interested to see, like, what would that time take? Would it take a month, 2 months, 3 months? Because if it takes a definitive amount of time for them to figure out whether or not we fit into a model school, that's time lost on focusing on building the schematic design that we're already trying to go towards, right? It would be time lost working with our current design and OP.
Well, it wouldn't be time lost if it saved $10 million or $5 million. Like, I don't.
That's true.
Wouldn't know until we, you know, until
yeah, but
they let us know.
He raises an interesting point. I think we should get clarified there, Soto. By exploring the model school, is that a cost to us, City of Holyoke, that we got to pay for to find out later that it's not a good direction to go? Something we've already kind of told them or alluded to, or I guess we should just confirm that.
Yeah, that was Councilor Puello's point, and I definitely agree we should follow up on that. Mr. Lubold was about the timing. Like, will it take longer to do the model school option? Like, you heard them today. They weren't really like ready or willing to talk. Like, they said there's so many variables, we don't know the timing of it. We would have to get with the designers, and then that's part of the feasibility study. They'll develop a timeline and a budget and all that. But I agree with you, Mayor Garcia and Councilor Puello, for sure. That's something that we could get clarity on.
It doesn't sound like they're doing it's the fees, so it's not like they're looking into and trying to design. They're going to review and see what model school fits our area. So maybe it's just their team coming out and then letting us know, here's what's possible, here's what's not possible. But if there's a cost to that we have to pay for, you know, it should know. Since we should just stick with our original plan.
Yeah, and those are definitely questions the city council will ask. So we want to make sure we have all that information before we go forward to ask the city council for.
What's the questions again that we need the city council?
If it's going to cost money and what the time frame would be like to
no the city council questions that they have to vote on.
Oh, so we're looking for the city council to agree to utilize our current consultants and OPs. Right. And then the next one would be that we want the city council to agree that we're asking the MSBA to see if we fit into a model school program.
Okay. So it sounds like that there shouldn't be.
I mean, their questions will be more detailed than that, but that's the quick notes I took.
Yeah. And
third one.
that the third one was that like we're going with a previously completed feasibility study dated July 11th, 2018, and accepting the district's conclusion to proceed with new construction and not further pursue an ad reno option.
Right.
That was the first one, and then the other two
Yep.
were the second two. Does anybody else have anything they want to add to this particular section of the conversation? Any other questions, concerns? Please feel free to raise your hand, even if you don't usually speak. We're happy to hear from you. All right, Mr. Soto, was that all in that section, or did you guys have anything else that we needed to cover?
That was all. I think overall, like I just felt some relief that, you know, like those two options are, you know, they're going to be very clear to the MSBA what we have requested them to do, which was if the model school saves us money, great. And if not, we got this like plan to pick up where we left off the last time and adjust it to our new ed plan or revised ed plan.
All right, and I just want to point out to people as well that in the notes on your agenda, it says that we don't know yet about attendance requirements or the details for watching this meeting, but I'm sure Ms. Linville or Mr. Soto will let us know as soon as we know, so that way we can zoom in and at least be present in the audience, or whether or not they allow a public comment, if we wanted to send a formal statement or anything like that. So we can look into that as it comes closer. Ms. Linville?
That was my question to Anthony and Mayor Garcia, was if they had mentioned anything about that at the meeting this morning.
They did not.
Okay.
So that's,
we can get an update on that, and then we'll email it out to the committee, because we don't meet again before that meeting. So especially if we want to submit a letter in support or anything like that, we'd want to do that.
I do know historically there, you know, whenever the board's going to take a vote, they like to see people. So, you know, it would be great if, you know, and if they ask me questions, I can acknowledge that, you know, we have folks from our building committee, we have, you know, a school, you know, school committee representatives and other members of the city. It just, you know, they like to see other people supporting as they're voting. You know, it's their time to really show, you know, that they appreciate community like Holyoke and are willing to help fund this great project.
I assume there's got to be a Zoom link when they announce their meetings. So I'm sure we can work on getting that for everybody.
Yeah,
Mr.
we'll follow
Cole?
up on those two things.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just had a quick question. Is there a time frame for that ed plan, or to meet with them regarding the ed plan with the facilities committee down there in Boston?
No, they said that they would that they'll be in touch with a date and on when they'll schedule that subcommittee. They gotta first have that meeting, and then after that meeting, if we are moved to feasibility and they approve it, then they'll reach out and schedule a date as to when, you know, they'll let us know when we need the ed plan completed by.
And so
but we're not going to wait. Like, you know, as Erin said, she'll start. She's already pulled it down, and she'll get, you know, so she'll start like spearheading that process, and one of the subcommittees will look at the report ahead of time as well.
Yeah, I was just I was just trying to get a sense of it. You know, if it wasn't until May or June, you know, then we really couldn't do anything with the OPM from the previous project until after that meeting takes place. And I don't know if then they have to go back to the full board and give them a recommendation that the model school isn't going to work in Holyoke. And, you know,
right.
I'm just getting nervous on timelines. That's all.
I hear you. The sense that I got from them is like, here are the 5 things that you need to know right now before we go to the board. once we meet and they take those 2 votes, we'll give you more information. That's kind of the sense I got this morning. I don't know, Mayor Garcia, if you had any other takeaways, but that's yeah.
Mr. Soto, are you looking, so I would assume we're going to get a little bit more information, a little bit more questions verified, come up with the language, and then at our next meeting, we'll review it and then refer it to City Council. Seems a little premature to do it now because we don't have the language yet.
Right, and we haven't been invited into feasibility yet either.
Okay, so we'll see how the 27th goes, and then at our next meeting, we'll review the language to refer these votes out to City Council. Okay, thank you. Just making sure we weren't needing to look for a motion at this point in time. All right, thank you. Does anybody else have anything that they want to go over before we move on to the next agenda item? Questions, comments, or concerns about process, meetings, anything like that? Hearing none, we will move forward. So next item on the agenda is updates from the working groups. Jackie, do you have anything to update us from academic and extracurricular? Sorry, I can't speak today.
Yeah, can you hear me, Erin? Okay, I'm like half on my computer, half on my phone. Yes, we met March 14th. We took the notes from the middle school collaborative study team and some of the other documents that were shared with us and created really our buckets of work. And we're really looking at SEL programming, enrichment, and core instruction. And I did speak with Erin today. A lot of our work will tie right into that educational plan. Our next meeting was to be in April, but there was a conflict. So we will not be meeting as a subgroup again until May, unless I hear differently from Erin Linville. And we have more information or more actions on the ed plan.
Thank you, Ms. Glasheen. Mr. Yost, do you have any updates on finance?
Yes, I'm planning on having a meeting later this month, probably right after tax day. I think our main theme of the meeting, we're looking at the revenue picture for the city.
Great, thank you. And I know that you will share that date as soon as you have it, and of course we'll share it with the committee. All right, moving on. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say that by mid-April we should have caught up on our postings on revenue, and should have a revenue projection and what our projected revenue forecast is going to be for the next fiscal year. So by mid-April, as soon as I get that, Dave, I can forward that to you so you can dive in and scrutinize it the best that you can. But just to let you know, that's coming.
Excellent, great timing.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know folks have been asking. You can try your best and guess what you think the revenue might be next year, but none of it really is relevant until we see the actual estimates based on the revenues collected to December at minimum, so we can accurately reflect or project what we think our anticipated revenue is going to be for the next fiscal year.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Lubold, any updates on the building design meeting?
No,
no.
Haven't met. I have no plans to meet. I think till we get a little further along and get some votes on, things we can actually look at and weigh in on.
All right, great. Thank you so much. And then communications, I know met, but I was not able to attend. So Ms. Linville.
We met to kind of debrief some lessons learned from the last council vote, and a lot of it was around how we can be proactive in reaching out to city councilors so that it just shows a lot of support, and that hopefully that would help kind of counterbalance any there was kind of more comments up front from people not in support of it than there were comments from people in support of it. So we're hoping if we can kind of show the support from this group and then also other people that we're connected with, then it will help help the counselors just like understand just how much support there is in case they weren't aware. So we have our meeting notes and that was great. Yep. And then I think our next meeting, we will meet once we have a next, we'll probably meet in May after we have our next meeting, and we have the April 27th MSBA meeting to then decide how to communicate out about any good news. Obviously, we'd be working with the communications team to do a press release if we were able to go into the feasibility stage.
Thank you, Ms. Linville. All right, moving on, folks. I'm looking for a motion to approve the meeting minutes from the March meeting.
A motion to accept the meeting minutes from the last meeting.
Can I have a second on that?
I second.
Sal, thank you, Sal. All those in favor, you can show hands. Oh, I should have asked if there was any discussion. Sorry. Kathy Ortiz, please. Ms. Ortiz, you have the floor.
I think she's responding to you saying,
oh,
all those
I'm
in
sorry.
favor, raise
She's
your hand.
voting. Okay, thank you for that. Sorry, guys. All right, I didn't see any opposed, so I think we're unanimous to approve the minutes. All right, thank you, everyone. So the next agenda item is to determine whether or not May and subsequent meetings thereafter should be held in person with the potential option for Zoom. If anyone has any thoughts on that, I know I do. And I spoke to Mr. Soto about possibly hosting our meetings in the fifth field room at Dean Holyoke High Dean campus, being that it's already set for audio and recording and everything that we would need to broadcast and do everything necessary. I think that that would be a really great location. Holyoke Public Schools, as you all know, has released its mask mandate. So the room is set up quite nice for us. It's independent of the rest of the school building. So that's my thoughts. If anybody else has any thoughts or concerns about potentially meeting in person moving forward.
Yeah, that's a good site. The other location too that can accommodate a hybrid is the library. They have a large community room with the equipment to do online for anyone that wants to continue to engage virtually. And I would imagine we'd still do virtual meetings as an option for members of the public that want to join in. But that's an option too. Dean is great too.
Mr. Garcia, do they have like people that would help us operate that equipment? Because in the 5-field room, we normally have our school committee secretary running the tech, and then we have Mike Hines doing that. I don't envision that they're going to be available for all of our meetings. But if the library already has a setup that's easy to use, plug and play.
That's the plug. I think it's just that plug and play. Take your own personal, plug it in and move forward.
Yeah, okay.
Does anybody have a connection at the library where we can get more information on that?
Someone would have to reach out to Maria Pagan and ask those questions. And if it's desirable, make sure you book it.
Maria Pagan?
Yeah, the director.
All right, so if it's the general consensus of the committee that we would like to start meeting in person, I'm happy to reach out to Maria myself, and then I can report back to Aaron. We can send out an update to the committee, and then we can maybe do a survey and help determine what location is better based on schematics.
Soto's buying pizza for everybody.
I mean, is it the consensus of the group? I didn't really. I don't know if we took a vote or what are you saying? We're going to take a vote?
I'm asking, asking for that. Yeah. If anybody wants to make a motion, if anybody has any comments or concerns about meeting in person or staying virtual, the floor could be yours if you raise your hand. Or
would there be an option to go virtual even if people are meeting in person?
Yes.
Yes, we would remain with a Zoom option because if somebody's ill, we wouldn't want them to miss the meeting. And of course, the public can Zoom in as well. Jessica, did you have a comment you'd like to add?
We kind of just ask, would it be mandated for committee members to meet in person if we chose that option?
No.
Nope. So that's kind of what we're looking for is advice if you guys would like to stay with a hybrid option so we could meet in person but provide the hybrid option. So it's whatever
Make a
we
motion.
decide as a
I'll make a
committee.
motion that we go to a hybrid option.
Second.
Any further discussion? Can I have a show of hands? All those in favor to going to a hybrid model for our May meeting and meetings moving forward? Keeping in mind, subcommittees can still decide for themselves what, based on their committee, what they feel is best. All right, any opposed? I'll see a hand for anybody opposed. All right, seeing none, it's the consensus of the committee that we move to a hybrid motion. I will follow up with Maria at the library to find out. I'll follow up with her tomorrow to gain information on how accessible they are. And then I'll report that out and then we can finalize the location based on that. So thank you everyone for that. Our next meeting will be Thursday, May 5th at 6 p.m. We'll stick with the Thursday schedules unless there's any reason to change that. And then I believe at that meeting, we'll probably discuss further once we have a better handle on where we're going, if we're going to start meeting more frequently. And then the last thing, Erin, do you want to review the survey on the PEC and go over if we should meet that day? And then we can take
There was a lot of interest of the 18 people that finished the survey. 14 people intend to do the tour. 8 said either time would work, and 7 said that the 4:15 to 5:15 time is best, and only 2 said that 5:30 to 6:30 is best. So I sent a calendar invite for 14 to 15. Thanks in advance to Whitney Anderson, our tour guide. I'll be there too. So I just sent you guys all a calendar invite. If you could please accept or decline the calendar invite so we know whether or not to wait for you, that would be great. And then day of, if you have any problems, Whitney and my cell phone numbers are in there. And then finally, if you're sick, if you're feeling sick and you're like, or we're sick on Sunday, but really wanted to go to the tour, just ask that you stay home and we'll find another tour time for you. If you were getting over being sick, it'd be great if you could test beforehand and then wear a mask too during the tour. Any questions, comments?
Mr. Lubold?
Yeah, I just was curious if the tour counts as a meeting. Does it have to be posted?
I don't believe it counts as a meeting, but
and usually when you have certain number of a body,
over quorum, right?
And things might come up that we're probably not supposed to discuss.
Does this group have to follow the open meeting law?
Yes.
Yes. Yep. Yeah.
I'll email Milka and ask her to post it.
And that way, I mean, couldn't we invite it to the public or no? Would we want to do that?
It'll be after hours, so the kids and teachers will be all out the building already.
Okay.
So
we should definitely invite city council.
Doesn't hurt to let folks join in if we're all going to be there.
We should send a formal invite to city council, Miss Linville.
Okay. Yeah, how about I send it? Well, I'll work with Mayor Garcia and Superintendent to invite city council and school committee. I would prefer not to do like an all public invite. I don't, just because if you guys think we need to do that, I think we should just plan another one, because I don't want people, if we have like 30 people, that seems like a pretty big tour. So I'll work on sending that all around tomorrow. We have plenty of time.
Yeah, and I'm not certain that it has to be posted, but I don't know. I just don't want, if we had to post it, that it came back and bit us. That's all.
Jammed up.
I feel like when in doubt, post.
Yeah.
I mean, if 1 or 2 people showed up and we weren't intending on them showing up, fine. I'm just not going to like publicize it on social media. Like, come join us for a tour.
All right, great. Does anybody else have anything at all they'd like to discuss? Anything at all that they'd like to see on the agenda for the next meeting?
I think Mr.
Anything at all that you'd like to go over? The floor could be yours.
I think Mr. Callamore has his hand up.
Yes, Ronnie.
Yeah, after this tour, are we going to meet as a group and discuss this, or are we just going to walk away and then bring it up at a later date, because it's very important that after the tour, everyone got things on their mind and want to ask questions. It would be a good idea to sit down and discuss this right after the tour.
It would be probably a good idea for the facilities subcommittee to maybe have their subcommittee meeting shortly thereafter where we could debrief as a suggestion. But I definitely agree with you, Mr. Collmore. Perhaps people can take notes and bring those notes back. What was the date again? May 5th? No.
It's Monday, May 9th, so it's following the May 5th meeting. I can definitely ask for a space so we can kind of debrief afterwards. If the academics and extracurricular groups want to use that as a time to then meet afterwards and talk about the educational plan, let Jackie and me know, and then we can schedule that as well. And then if anyone has any, usually when we walk PEC, we use the stairs. If anyone would need to use the elevator, just let us know to make sure that we can have access to the elevator. You can email Whitney for that.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Collmore. Thank you, Ms. Linville. All right, if nobody else has anything they'd like to add to our meeting tonight, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So
motion to adjourn.
Can I have a second? Thank you, Ms. Ortiz. All those in favor, or any further discussion?
Nope.
All right,
There's
great.
no discussion on a motion to adjourn.
Oh, sorry. Hey, man, I try. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you, everybody, for your time. And we will email you shortly about where our next meeting location will be. Have a good rest of the night.
Later.
Thank you all.